My name is Angie K. Bigelow, 31 years old. The alert slid across my screen at 10:17 a.m. Neat black numbers pinned to a white background like a specimen. $14,028, 52 times. Whitestone Estate events. For a moment, I thought it was a glitch. Then I remembered the name and felt the floor tilt. Whitestone. Olivia's marble-washed obsession for months, sent into the family chat like commandments, not questions. This is where I'll be having my reception. Not, do you think? Just, I will, the way she said everything. I clicked into my savings, the one I fed in quiet, steady amounts, and didn't talk about because some dreams die if you show them too early. The down payment threshold had been crossed last week. My throat tightened. When did my money become a confetti cannon for someone else's party? Then I remembered 6 months ago, Mom at my kitchen table with a trembling hand and a bill she couldn't cover until Friday, asking for temporary access to my account. I'd clicked Add User, watched her promise she wouldn't touch it again, felt her hug me and call me a good daughter, words so rare in our house I saved them like foreign coins. Apparently she'd kept the key. I drove to the house without texting. The front door was cracked. Doug's laugh bled in from the living room TV, some sports clip on loop. Olivia appeared first. Fresh blowout, sunglasses still on, indoors, leggings like armor. Mom hovered by the sink, wiping a clean counter. Dad asked, like a man in a sitcom who's wandered onto the wrong set, "What brings you by?" "Who gave you permission to use my account?" I asked. Olivia didn't flinch. She tilted her face the way she does when she wants to borrow the light. "It's not a big deal," she said. "You don't have kids. You don't have a husband. You don't even have a family. You're sitting on money while my once-in-a-lifetime moment is coming up. It's the least you can do." I felt my jaw steady instead of shake. There was a time I'd have negotiated my own boundaries into dust. Instead, I smiled, a small, quiet thing that made her blink. "Then you'll love what happens next," I said, and turned. Olivia's laugh followed me down the hall, high and tinny, like a spoon against cheap crystal. In my car, I put the phone on speaker and called Whitestone. "Payment authorization?" the manager asked. Her voice was pleasant in a professional way, like a hotel lobby at off-peak. I opened my laptop on the passenger seat, submitted the bank's fraud affidavit, uploaded the police report I filed from the parking lot, and emailed both while she was still speaking. "That charge," I said, "was unauthorized. Here is documentation and a report number. Process the refund. Future communication goes to the actual account holder, Olivia, at this number." I gave it to her. "And please attach notes. All bookings under my name are fraudulent." There was a pause, a long exhale through a smile I could hear. "Understood," she said. "Consider the account frozen pending reversal." I didn't stop with the venue. Olivia had the subtlety of a megaphone. Everything else was in my name too. The florist, she said you'd guarantee the deposit. The caterer, we were excited for the tasting. The photographer, we already sent her a mood board using your email. I canceled each with a new muscle I hadn't used before, one where my voice didn't apologize for existing. In the florist's portal, a detail snagged my attention, an alternate email I didn't recognize, initials that weren't mine, an address line with my apartment number, but a different street, sloppy, or too confident to hide well. Why is my address attached to an address that isn't mine? I screenshotted it and filed it in a folder labeled Strays. Then I called the bank again and moved the remaining $1,800 from the shared account into a new private one before permanently closing Mom's access. A door locking in software still sounds like a door. By the time I got home, my phone was a siren. Missed calls from Mom, never any voicemails, panic hates recordings, 3 from Olivia, 2 from Dad's cell. I let them stack. The screen lit as I crossed my threshold, as if the house itself were a stage eyeing a cue. I ignored it. I made tea and stood at the window because I needed to remember what quiet felt like so I wouldn't forget to protect it. At 5:12, a car nosed up my drive. Olivia. Leggings again, hoodie this time, hair yanked back like she'd punished it. She pounded the door like a raid. I watched from the upstairs hall, spine against the wall. She stayed. She shouted once. Then she crouched, slipped something under the door, and left. A note, all slant and fury. You think this is over? You're dead to me. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because for the first time in my life, there was nothing inside me for her to kill. That night, I logged into the landlord portal for Olivia and Doug's apartment, the one I'd been quietly subsidizing, just until they're on their feet. I deleted my card, closed the tab, closed the loop. Rent was due in 4 days. Adults find ways. Or they don't. The phone rang again. Whitestone's number. We just spoke with Olivia, the manager said carefully. She insists the cancellation is a mistake, and you'll wire the funds back within the hour. Can you confirm? No, I said. I can confirm the opposite. Please forward any further communication to me for the record. Record, she repeated, a tidy word that felt more like a shield every time I used it. I was still on the call when headlights skimmed my wall. For a second, I assumed Olivia had returned with backup. But a different couple stepped out, a man with apologies knitted into his shoulders, and a woman whose face looked like it had been held together with determination all afternoon. The fiancé's parents. We heard you were covering the wedding, the mother began at my porch, voice already flinching. And now, since everything's falling apart, we don't understand why you're backing out. Who told you that? I asked. Olivia, she said, and your mother. I opened the door wider and invited them in because reality deserves chairs. I handed them a folder. Screenshots, timestamps, the fraud case number, bank logs, like heart monitors. The father read the pages with the quiet of a man who hates drama, but hates lies more. We're postponing, he said at last. The mother nodded, embarrassed, flushing her throat. We're reconsidering everything, she added, and the words landed in the room like truth finally arrived, at a party it hadn't been invited to. They left with their folder and polite sorrow. When the door shut, the house felt taller. I made a second cup of tea and didn't drink it. Cold peppermint sweat beaded the mug. I carried it to the sink and poured it out, watching the swirl go, thinking about the way Mom had smiled while asking for temporary access, the way she always could make theft sound like a favor you'd done yourself. By morning, the silence was loud, which is how I knew they were regrouping. In my family, quiet never means peace. It means there's a group chat without you. I waited until 9:30 and picked up when Dad called because I wanted to hear what version of the story I was going to be asked to swallow. Things got messy, he said, soft voice turned reasonable. It's a big misunderstanding. Your sister is hurt. She thinks you're trying to ruin her big day. Can't we move past this? Move past a $14,000 theft? I asked. Or past yesterday in your kitchen, when I asked who used my account and Olivia called me a loser? Which misunderstanding? He mumbled, your mother meant well, and hung up, his version of contrition, a fog machine where an apology should be. At 11:06, an email from Mom arrived, opening like a white flag and unraveling into blame. I never thought you'd react this way. Involving the police made me feel like a criminal. I really thought you'd be proud to do something meaningful for the family, especially since you don't have a family of your own. I forwarded it to Aunt Lisa with the subject line. Thought you'd like to see this. Lisa called in 10 minutes, voice blazing. I'm calling people before she can spin it, she said. Don't worry, I've got this. By evening, screenshots from cousins bloomed on my phone. Mom had told everyone I'd overreacted to a mix-up and hurt Olivia during an emotional time. Lisa asked the only questions that matter. Why was the wedding booked under Arden's name? Why did Arden's bank pay for it? Why did Mom have access to Arden's account? Then a quiet uncle lobbed the grenade. Why had Arden been paying Olivia's rent? If Olivia could afford a $30,000 day, why not 30 days of living? The chat went silent the way a theater does when the lights come up. At 8:30, headlights washed my driveway again. I didn't open the door. Mom paced the asphalt with her arms crossed, then drove away. At 6:14 the next morning, I woke to the war drum of Olivia's texts. 37 messages later, the beat changed. Threats turned to pleas. The venue canceled, deposits frozen, the fiancé's parents not speaking, her life ruined, fix it, fix it, fix it. I set the phone down and laced my shoes. The air outside smelled like cut grass and rain that hadn't started yet. For the first time in years, there was no string tied from their story to my throat. I walked a long loop under low clouds and breathed like it was something I owned. Back home, I opened my laptop and reviewed every portal I'd closed, every vendor I'd notified, every number I'd saved. In the florist's files, that stray alternate email blinked again. The street that wasn't mine. The feeling that something else had been opened with my name, and Mom's temporary access, as a skeleton key, pressed the back of my neck. I created a new folder and labeled it Identity. Then I sat very still and listened to the hum of my apartment, reminding myself of the only rule that has ever saved me. When they try to make you feel crazy, build a record and wait. The truth will want daylight. It always does. By 7 a.m. the next morning, my phone was having a seizure. Calls stacked over texts, texts stacked over missed video chats, the whole screen stuttering like panic had teeth. Olivia led with a single ice chip. What did you do? And then a hailstorm. The venue confused, the caterer unreachable, the florist being dramatic, the photographer unprofessional. When insults didn't get traction, "You're disgusting. You better fix this. You're ruining my life." She pivoted to scripture she didn't believe in. Family means you show up. I brewed coffee, watched the mug steam like a small storm, and let each notification slide past without catching. By 8, there was pounding at my door. 3 heavy knocks, a pause. 3 more, like she'd practiced the rhythm of authority. I stood at the top of the stairs and watched the peephole glow. She didn't wait. A paper slid under the door, the looped handwriting traveling downhill like it couldn't bear its own weight. "You think this is over? You're dead to me." The first time I'd seen that sentence, I was 12 and didn't go to a sleepover because Mom needed me to help with Olivia's project that Olivia forgot. The words have always been less about death and more about theater. If you won't be my audience, I'll declare you gone. I picked up the note and set it on the counter, a museum label for the exhibit called How We Used to Talk to Me. Then I opened my laptop and did the thing I should have done a year ago. I logged back into the landlord portal for Olivia and Doug's apartment to make sure my card was gone, not just submit screen saved gone. It was. I stared at the due date, 4 days, and didn't send a reminder. Adults figure it out. Or they learn what happens when no one catches them. At 9:30, the venue manager emailed a neat, clinical paragraph. Authorization rescinded. Refund in motion. Files tagged with the police report number. She CC'd a Whitestone accounts inbox and attached a PDF log of calls from Olivia trying to reverse everything by sheer force of insistence. I filed it in record and answered with one sentence. Please forward all future communications related to my name, account, or signature. The reply came fast. Of course, and for the first time, I felt how bureaucracy can be a wall as much as a maze. My phone rang with Dad's cell, and I answered because I wanted to hear which script he'd choose. He started with soft music. Things got messy, big misunderstanding, and then got to the chorus he loves. Your sister is really hurt. She thinks you're trying to ruin her big day. Can't we move past this? I reminded him of the previous afternoon, the kitchen where he didn't stand and Olivia called me a loser, the way Mom wiped an already clean counter while a 5-figure theft wore her face. That wasn't a misunderstanding, I said. That was a choice. He mumbled, your mother meant well, and hung up like he'd done the brave thing by not yelling. I was ready for Mom's email before it arrived, peace-offering tone, blame centerpieces. I never thought you'd react like this. The police made me feel like a criminal. I truly believed you'd be proud to do something meaningful for the family, especially since you don't have a family of your own. I forwarded it to Aunt Lisa with the subject. Thought you'd like to see this, and within 10 minutes my phone lit with her call. I'm already on it, she said, voice like a match. I'm calling people before she spins it to the cousins. Sit tight. By noon, screenshots from the extended family thread bloomed. Mom had declared I'd overreacted to a mix-up and hurt Olivia during an emotional time. Lisa asked the boring but fatal questions. Why were all bookings under my name? Why did my bank pay? Why did Mom have access to my account? A cousin asked the one that hummed like a truth engine. Why had I been paying Olivia's rent? Uncle Drew lobbed the line that punctured the balloon. If she can afford a $30,000 wedding, she can afford rent. The chat went dark the way sanctimony does when math shows up. At 2, the fiancé's parents called again, their voices less brittle and more bone. They wanted to return with a few questions, but I suggested email. You have what you need, I said, and there was a quiet relief in their pause. We're postponing indefinitely, the mother said, like someone finally naming the weather after standing in it all day. I'm sorry for what you've been dragged through. It sounded like a benediction I hadn't asked for but badly needed. By late afternoon, Olivia's texts shifted key. Fury tried bargaining on for size. The venue had canceled by mistake. The caterer would re-add if I just verified my identity. The florist said she might keep the date if a new card cleared today. Fix it, she wrote. I know you want to. That last sentence was a throat hook she'd used since we were kids. She was right then. She wasn't now. I turned my phone over and let the glass stare at the table. That evening, Aunt Lisa sent a photo from a family thread I wasn't in, a picture Olivia had posted weeks ago, brunch mimosa tower, captioned bridal energy, time-stamped the same Saturday she'd texted me she was late on rent, please just this once. Lisa didn't add commentary. She didn't have to. In our family, proof is a foreign language you learn fast when someone else speaks it to you like it's your native tongue. The doorbell didn't ring at dusk, but headlights washed the living room again. I didn't open the door. I watched from the stairwell as Mom stood in the drive, arms folded so tight she caged herself. She paced, stared at my windows like they might blink, and finally left. It should have felt like victory. It felt like the first full breath after a long swim. The next morning cracked open with Olivia's flood. 37 messages in under an hour. She began with litigation light. You destroyed my life. You embarrassed me. Everyone knows how evil you are. Then she slid into unraveling. The wedding officially canceled, deposits gone, his parents not speaking to her, a plea masquerading as an accusation. You made them hate me. Fix it. The screen scrolled in a fever of second person. I closed it and laced my shoes. The air outside smelled like rain promised, but not delivered. I walked until the texts receded to where angry waves become mere noise. Back home, a different notification waited. A message from the venue manager forwarding a string of Olivia emails, claiming I had changed my mind and would wire the money by noon. The manager attached phone logs and politely asked me to confirm, again, that there would be no payment. I replied with a single, confirmed, and added it to record. Paper doesn't gaslight, it just waits. By midday, Cousin Jenna DM'd me with an observation disguised as a joke. Your silence is the loudest thing you've ever said. I typed and deleted a dozen responses before settling on, I'm done explaining math to people who prefer myths. She sent a heart and a screenshot from the group thread where Mom had tried to resuscitate the word family as a weapon. Uncle Drew replied beneath it, family is a verb. No one typed after that for a while. I spent the afternoon doing what shouldn't feel radical, protecting my own name. I set fraud alerts at all 3 bureaus, not because of paranoia, but because of the way that florist portal had flashed an address near mine that wasn't mine. I ordered a fresh copy of my credit report and flagged a weird soft inquiry from a bank I'd never used. I called and was told nothing substantive. We can't disclose without security verification, but the rep tripped over my address and had to reconfirm. I wrote down the misstep and filed it under identity, the folder whose edges felt hot. At 4, a single text popped through from an unknown number. It was the fiancé's mother. Can we meet? There's something you should see. It changes things. I stared at the message until my coffee went cold. The last time someone told me it changes things, a doctor was explaining Dad's cholesterol. Or Mom was telling me we thought the rent was due next week. But her voice over the phone was different. No flinch, only urgency, stitched with apology. A cafe outside town, she said. Just us. I almost said no. Then I remembered the florist's other address. The bank rep's falter. The shape of a story I hadn't seen yet pressing against the wall. Tomorrow morning, I said. That night I didn't post, didn't vent, didn't reach for sympathy like a sugar high. I printed the venue logs, Olivia's threats, Mom's email, Dad's misunderstanding, and slid them into a thin, neat folder I labeled baseline. If there was another layer under the theft, I wanted the first layer preserved the way a clean lab keeps samples. In the quiet, the apartment hummed steady, the way machines do when they're healthy. I stood at the window with the lights off and listened to a city that didn't know or care about a family choosing a wedding over a daughter. I slept hard and dreamless, the body's way of saying, "You did what you were supposed to do. Now do not move." Morning came clean. On my way out, I picked up the note Olivia had shoved under the door, read it again. "You're dead to me," and slipped it into record without ceremony. It wasn't a threat anymore. It was a timestamp. At the cafe, I chose a corner table facing the door. The fiancé's mother arrived, clutching her purse like it had something alive inside. She didn't order. She sat. And when she opened the bag, the story bent into a new shape I recognized from a distance because it had my name on it. "Arden," she said, voice careful, but not performative, "we found a card." "We found a card," she said again, quieter this time, like the sentence itself might splinter if she breathed too hard. It took me a few seconds to understand what she meant. Then she slid a single sheet of paper across the table, an account statement with my name printed cleanly at the top. Angie K. Bigelow. My address? A bank I'd never used. A balance of $8,024.13. The fiancé's mother, Barbara, folded her hands tightly over the edge of the page. "He went back to the apartment to grab his passport," she said. "There was a stack of unopened mail. He started sorting through it. This was mixed in." For a moment, the world seemed to tilt. The hum of the cafe faded to static. All I could see was my own name, stamped above rows of charges that didn't belong to me. Bridal boutiques in Los Angeles, a spa in Napa, a hotel in Palm Springs. "She said it was yours," Barbara continued carefully. "That you set it up so she wouldn't have to worry about credit issues before the wedding. That it was all in good faith. And you believed her?" My voice came out steady, but I could feel my pulse in my jaw. "Not for long," Barbara said. "He didn't either. She kept changing her story. Said you'd offered, then said you'd forgotten, then said it was your idea because you were jealous." She looked at me, eyes wet but resolute. "He didn't buy it. He packed a bag that night and came home." She reached into her purse and pulled out a small flash drive in a clear plastic case. "He wanted you to have this. It has screenshots, emails, even a copy of the credit application, the one where your mother signed as the secondary verifier." That word, verifier, lodged in my throat. Barbara's voice softened. "I think you already know what that means." I did. Mom's temporary access. Her calm confidence whenever she said, "Don't worry, I'll handle it." I'd given her my information once. Just once. Now it was a key she'd copied. I don't remember leaving the cafe. One moment I was sitting across from Barbara. The next I was in my car, the flash drive burning cold in my hand. The world outside moved normally, cars passing, sunlight flickering through branches, but everything inside me had gone very still. At the police station, the fluorescent lights were merciless. I filled out a second report, this one for identity theft and fraud. I froze my credit, called the banks, and opened a new file for every agency that needed proof. When the officer asked if I wanted to press charges, I said yes before he finished the question. That night, I sent one message to the family group chat. No explanations, no anger, just the facts. Olivia opened a credit card in my name and maxed it out. Mom co-signed it. The bank and police have everything. This isn't a misunderstanding, it's a felony. Then I muted the chat and closed my phone. Within minutes, I could see the bubble of replies forming. Anger, panic, denial. But I didn't open it. I didn't need to. Aunt Lisa did. An hour later, she called, half laughing, half furious. Olivia said it was a surprise gift you'd offered and forgot about. Anthony asked why a surprise gift would include a $900 robe that says Bride Energy. The whole chat turned on her. Even Grandma. She said she was ashamed. Do you understand? That woman hasn't said more than 5 words to anyone in months. I sat there stunned. Grandma? She said, and I quote, "Olivia wasn't raised to steal. She learned it because no one told her no." That sentence landed like a small earthquake, the kind that doesn't destroy anything but shifts the ground enough that you realize it'll never sit the same again. The fallout came fast. Doug's parents withdrew their support for the lease, which meant the apartment was suddenly very expensive for a woman who had never paid her own rent. The eviction notice came 3 days later. Mom called that night, voice cracking between outrage and self-pity. "I didn't know she'd gone that far," she sobbed. "I thought it was just a backup card." "You should have said yes from the beginning, Arden. None of this would have happened." The sentence sliced through me, cold and precise. You should have said yes. That was the language of my childhood. The moral script of our family. If you say no, you're the problem. If you protect yourself, you're selfish. I hung up before she finished crying. Then I called the landlord, just to confirm. He sighed like a man who'd been waiting to tell this story. Yeah, she's being evicted. Rent's 2 months behind. I didn't like dealing with her anyway. Always assumed someone else would cover for her. Guess that's over. It is, I said, and meant it. The next morning, I woke to an email from Doug, the ex-fiancé. It was long, the kind of letter written by someone trying to untangle guilt with honesty. I didn't know how much you'd been covering. She lied about everything. The rent, the wedding, even your relationship with your parents. I believed her because I wanted to. I'm sorry. You didn't deserve any of this. I'm out for good. I read it twice. I didn't reply. Some apologies are just echoes, but I appreciated the sound. The family group chat had gone quiet. Not gone, just still, like a stage after the curtain drops. Aunt Lisa sent occasional updates. Cousin Jenna wrote, I guess karma doesn't take holidays. Then, one afternoon, I got a call from Uncle Drew. She called me crying, he said. Said she needed help with rent. I told her she was lucky you didn't press charges sooner. He paused, then added softly, You gave her soft landings her whole life, Arden. Maybe she finally needed a hard one. His words stuck to me. Not like praise, but like truth that had been sitting in the room all along, waiting for someone to turn the light on. A week later, an envelope appeared in my mailbox. No return address, just my name in Olivia's slanted handwriting. For a moment, I hesitated. Part of me wanted to throw it out unopened, but curiosity is a dangerous thing. Inside was a single page. You ruined everything. You think you're so perfect. You enjoy seeing me suffer. You made everyone turn against me. I hope you're happy now because I'm starting over with nothing. I folded the letter once, twice, and set it on my desk. She was right about one thing. She was starting over with nothing. But the difference was, it was the first time she'd earned it. That night, I gathered everything I still had access to. Old rent transfers, text messages, receipts, and screenshots, and compiled them into a folder on my hard drive labeled Just in Case. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I'd learned the hard way that paper is the only language people like them understand. When I finished, I sat back and stared at the folder. It felt heavy, like it held more than files, like it held years. Outside, the neighborhood was quiet, peaceful. I almost believed it was over, but peace in my family never lasted long. It was just the pause before the next performance. And 3 weeks later, they would prove it again, this time with a lawsuit. 3 weeks of silence. That's how long it lasted. Just enough time for my pulse to stop racing when the phone rang, for Mason to stop asking if Mom's phone is angry again, for me to think maybe, just maybe, this was the ending I'd earned. Then the letter came. Thin envelope, law office header, no return name, just small claims division. At first, I thought it was a prank. I even smiled a little, the kind of dry, humorless smile you give the universe when it tries to recycle its old tricks. But it was real. Plaintiff, Olivia Vale. Defendant, Angie K. Bigelow. Claim, emotional distress, public humiliation, and psychological harm. She was suing me for ruining her life. The claim read like bad fan fiction. The defendant's deliberate actions caused severe trauma and loss of reputation. She'd even added that I had hacked her wedding plans out of spite, that I had conspired with outsiders to defame her. No lawyer's name, just hers. Self-filed, self-righteous. I dropped the papers off at my attorney's office the same day. Amira skimmed them once, exhaled through her nose, and looked up. This won't last 5 minutes, she said flatly, but you'll need to show up. Pro se filers love their audience. So I did. Court was on a Tuesday morning. The kind of gray, unassuming day that pretends to be neutral, but never is. The courtroom was small, white walls, wooden benches, polished down by years of fidgeting hands. I sat at the defendant's table in a black dress and minimal makeup, the color of boundaries. She arrived in white. Of course she did. A fitted blazer, pearl earrings, a folder clutched to her chest like a prop. If I'd ever doubted her addiction to symbolism, that cured me. When the judge entered, Olivia's eyes darted to the door, then to me, as if she still thought someone might swoop in to defend her. No one did. The judge, a woman in her 60s with tired eyes that had seen every shade of petty family warfare, looked over the file, sighed once, and said, Ms. Vale, I've read your complaint. Would you like to explain what this case is about? Olivia launched into performance mode. She cried. She trembled. She said words like betrayal, abandonment, family. She talked about how I'd humiliated her, turned everyone against her, destroyed her future. When the judge finally held up a hand, Olivia's mascara had begun to pool, but she kept her chin high. "I just wanted my sister to love me," she whispered. The judge didn't blink. "Ms. Vale," she said calmly, "you are aware that your sister filed a police report for fraud in your name?" Olivia froze. It was a misunderstanding. "Did you open a credit card in her name?" Silence. "Did you authorize over $8,000 in purchases?" Her voice cracked. She said she would have wanted to help. That's what family does. "And did your mother sign a secondary verifier on this account?" Olivia swallowed hard. She didn't understand what she was signing. The judge flipped through the pages again, eyes tired but sharp. "Case dismissed," she said, just like that. "You are lucky your sister hasn't filed a civil suit of her own. Court is adjourned." The sound of the gavel wasn't loud, but it landed in my chest like the first clean breath after years underwater. Olivia stood there for a second, hands shaking, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. She turned as I walked past her, eyes red and wet. "You could have just helped me," she hissed. I didn't stop. "I did," I said. "Just not the way you wanted." Outside, the courthouse steps gleamed wet from last night's rain. She stayed at the top, clutching her folder. I kept walking until I hit the parking lot, the click of my heels louder than her sniffles. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel sorry. I felt done. A week later, I got another letter. This time it was handwritten, but not by her. Doug. His handwriting was neat, careful, like someone trying not to leave smudges. "I'm sorry for everything. I didn't see it until too late. You helped me dodge a bullet, even if you didn't mean to. I'm moving to Oregon to stay with my family for a while. I hope you get peace. You deserve it." I folded the letter, slid it into a drawer with the rest of the evidence, my own quiet archive of truth, and closed it. That night, Aunt Lisa called. "They're planning Thanksgiving early this year," she said. "Just the usual crowd. Me, Jenna, Uncle Drew. No one else. You're invited." I hesitated. It had been years since I'd gone to a family holiday that didn't feel like walking into crossfire. "Come," Lisa said gently. "You've earned normal." So I said yes. A few nights before Thanksgiving, I got a text from Jenna. "You did the right thing. Everyone sees it now." The words hit harder than I expected, because for the first time, I believed them. For years, I'd been the one who kept quiet, smoothed edges, let people rewrite reality as long as it didn't make noise. Now there was nothing left to explain. Olivia had lost everything she built on lies. Mom and Dad had lost the illusion of control. And me? I'd only lost people who thought that was okay. Sometimes subtraction is how you find balance. On Thanksgiving Day, the air was cold enough to bite. I brought pumpkin pie and an unfamiliar peace. Lisa hugged me at the door. No small talk, just warmth. Uncle Drew poured me coffee. Jenna whispered, "I'm proud of you." Like it was a secret she didn't want to jinx. We didn't talk about Olivia. We didn't have to. Silence for once was gentle. When dinner was done, Lisa handed me a small envelope. "Open it later," she said. Inside was a photo of me as a kid. Missing teeth, wild hair, beaming. On the back, she'd written, "This is who you were before they convinced you that saying no made you unlovable. Don't lose her again." I pressed the photo between my palms and felt something loosen deep inside me. That night, at home, I lit a single candle in the kitchen, the same place where Mom once said family means sacrifice. Maybe she was half right. Family does mean sacrifice, but not of yourself. I watched the flame flicker, small and steady. Outside, the world was quiet again, and for the first time, I knew it wasn't the calm before the next storm. It was peace that I had built, the kind that doesn't ask permission. Peace has a strange sound when you've lived without it long enough. It isn't silence. It's the hum of ordinary life, the kettle whistling, the washing machine groaning, the low purr of a car outside that isn't coming for you. A month after the court case, that's what my days sounded like. Simple, manageable, safe. For the first time in years, I could wake up without checking my phone for chaos. No missed calls, no emergency texts, no one weaponizing guilt before breakfast. Just quiet. But peace doesn't erase memory. It only gives it a safer room to live in. The week before Christmas, I got one last letter. No return address. My mother's handwriting. I almost threw it away unopened, but old habits die like weeds. Slowly, stubbornly. Inside was a single line, written in her familiar cursive. I still love you, even if I don't understand you. That was it. No apology, no ownership. Just a half-hearted olive branch wrapped in thorns. I didn't respond. But I didn't rip it up either. I tucked it into a drawer, next to the folder labeled Record, next to Lisa's photo of me as a kid. Because love, even the broken kind, didn't need to be rewritten anymore. It just needed to be filed away, exactly where it belonged, in the past. January came with cold mornings and new habits. I started running again, cooking meals that weren't just coffee and adrenaline, learning that healing isn't glamorous. It's dishes in the sink and bills paid on time and a quiet that finally feels earned. Sometimes, when I caught my reflection, I barely recognized the woman staring back. There was no tightness in her jaw, no waiting for impact look in her eyes. This version of me didn't flinch when the phone rang. The first person I invited into my new piece was Aunt Lisa. She came over one Sunday with soup, 3 jokes, and that knowing look she always had, like she could see right through you but loved you anyway. We sat on the couch watching some forgettable movie, the kind with predictable endings and soft music. Halfway through, she said, "You know, your mom called me last week." I raised an eyebrow. "And?" "She asked if you were coming home for Easter." I laughed quietly. "And what did you tell her?" Lisa smiled. "I told her you are home." Spring arrived like forgiveness. Slow, uncertain, but real. One Saturday, I drove out of the city, no destination in mind. I passed fields greening up again, kids flying kites, and couples arguing over which plant looked healthier. The world was still messy, but it was mine now, not something I had to survive, just something I got to live in. At a roadside cafe, I stopped for coffee. The barista called my name, and for a brief second, I thought I heard it the way Mom used to say it. Sharp, clipped, like a reprimand. But when I turned, it was just a stranger, smiling kindly. That's when I realized the ghosts were still around, but they couldn't touch me anymore. A few weeks later, an email pinged from an unfamiliar address, Barbara.Reynolds@Doug's mother. She wrote, "Just wanted to say thank you for standing your ground. My son is doing better now. We both are. You were right. Honesty hurts, but it heals." I read it twice and closed my laptop smiling. Sometimes closure doesn't come from the people who broke you. It comes from the witnesses who finally saw the truth. By summer, I'd sold my old apartment, the one where every wall echoed with someone else's chaos. I moved into a smaller place on the edge of town. Sunlight, quiet, trees that didn't gossip. Lisa and Jenna helped me unpack. We laughed more than we labeled boxes. When we found the framed wedding photo I'd left at Whitestone months ago, the one the waiter had mailed back, Lisa held it up, squinting. "Keep it?" she asked. I looked at the image. My parents young, radiant, believing in forever before it soured. "Yeah," I said softly, but not where I can see it. We tucked it behind a stack of books in the closet. History doesn't vanish. It just loses its front row seat. One evening, as the sun slid behind the trees, Jenna texted me a photo from the family group chat, a thread I hadn't rejoined. It was Thanksgiving all over again, except smaller. Just her, Lisa, Uncle Drew, and the cousins. No Olivia, no mom, no dad. Under the photo, she wrote, "It feels lighter now." I replied, "It's supposed to." Life didn't turn cinematic after that. It turned real. Work, quiet, coffee, sunlight. A few good friends. A few good days that didn't ask to be perfect. Every now and then, a bill from the past would surface, an old debt notice, a stray email, some reminder of what they'd tried to take. I'd open it, scan it, and file it in record. Proof of survival doesn't have to scream. Sometimes it just needs to exist. A year later, I drove past Whitestone Estate for the first time since all of it happened. The gates were open for another wedding. Strings of lights glowed above the courtyard, laughter rising into the air like champagne fizz. I didn't stop, but I rolled down the window and whispered, "Good luck," not to them, but to the girl I used to be, the one who thought love was measured by how much pain you could absorb before you broke. Back home, I made pancakes for dinner, an old comfort. Lisa texted to say she'd found a house on the lake for the next holiday, asked if I'd come. I typed back, "Wouldn't miss it." As the pan sizzled, I caught my reflection in the kitchen window. My hair was a little wild from the steam, my eyes calm, mouth curved into something I hadn't seen in years. Peace. Not loud, not fleeting, just there. And for the first time, I realized something simple, something sacred. You don't need everyone to believe your side of the story. You just need to live long enough that the truth becomes undeniable. So I flipped the pancake, turned off the stove, and let the quiet hum of my home fill the space where their chaos used to live. I wasn't the villain. I never was. I was just the first one brave enough to say no, and mean it.